All right, guys, welcome to Beard of Darkness Book Reviews. I'm so happy to be here. This is my second interview today, and we were talking a little before this. I just love doing it. I'm so happy to have Mr. S.A. Klopfenstein here. How are you tonight, brother?
I'm great, man. It's great to be here.
I
I'm
love it. Where are you hailing from?
from the Salt Lake area, one of the Salt Lake suburbs.
I love that. I so what kind of things do you do out there in Salt Lake?
A lot of like outdoor kind of activity and stuff like that. It's definitely a great spot for hiking, snowboarding. Used to do a
Man,
little rock climbing, but pretty much all those things have slowed down a lot since having kids.
hey, brother, you're preaching to another, yeah, 100%. So it's like one of those things. You have an idea of what it's going to be like when you have children, and
Yeah.
then it's never ever what you really get, right?
No.
Yeah,
My wife and I joke all the time about how we used to be like critical of our friends who had kids and how they lost had no lives and stuff like that. And
like
we're like, we had
those
no idea.
squares. It's like these
No,
guys
we
don't
had
even
no
do
idea what we were
nothing.
talking about. But
Yeah,
now we
yeah.
tell all our my younger siblings will tell, oh, just you wait.
Isn't that the best? Because you know they're right.
hmm
It's like, oh, you know what? But I have three boys. I just got my first girl. It's fun
Congrats.
times. Yes, thank you so much. But man, I'm so excited for the reason that we're here. I'm excited for you. I love indie author. I love authors, but I love indie authors even more. Sorry for you traditionally. Look, I have my thing. Um, Tell us about your book, uh, The Shadow Watch, and its subgenre, this and that. You know what it is. You've done this before.
Yeah, so the Shadow Watch is the first of a 4-book epic fantasy series called the Shadow Watch Saga, and um, it kind of it kind of toes the line. It's a coming of age epic fantasy, but uh, I wouldn't the first one maybe has some hints of YA, and kind of after that it leaves YA behind. It's definitely like on the more mature side of things. So I've always uh, struggled with exactly where it falls there, but I kind of feel like it's similar maybe in tone to things like Mistborn that I feel like
I
kind of
love
touch
that.
mine, I guess.
Yeah. Just I want your opinion. You'll hear my opinion now, and I know what you. I think when somebody labels something YA, is it just this marketing agenda? Do you think that, like, I think, okay, because somebody made this point to me. He was an older
Mhm.
gentleman, not old, but he'd been writing for a long time. And he's
Yeah.
like, look, back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s and stuff like that, there wasn't YA fantasy. There was just fantasy.
hmm
And I think that it just gets I don't know. I get people get too mixed up in that. I think I have read
Yeah.
absolutely excellent YA books. I've read excellent adult books, and honestly, sometimes I don't think you need to even just say that. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
think a lot of these marketing, like the Walmart books, I like to call them, it's a
Mhm.
whole thing nowadays. Would you
Yeah.
agree?
Yeah, I definitely feel like it is kind of more of a marketing thing. I mean, there's elements that I mean, there's certain themes that you'll find in there, but there's a lot of things. I also think that a lot of it kind of rides on if it's male or female, the protagonist, because you'll have something like um I don't know. I mean, Wheel of Time, for example, where you got like all these teenagers, but the main character is Rand, and he's male. But if it's a female, then I think it tends to be more YA, and I think YA tends to be marketed a little more female.
Yeah,
So I
I
think there's a gender element to the labeling too, but ultimately a lot of similar themes are going to come up. So
Yeah, because there's parts of the Wheel of Time, and I'm only 3 books in, and there's things that nowadays you could label YA, and then there's
mhm,
definitely some things you could say are adult.
yeah,
I don't. I'm just saying, playing clown, I don't get caught up in that. I'm in it for just the books. You know what I mean? I love that. I really want to hear the blurb of your book, and I know so many others do. Kind of give us an overview of it.
Yeah, you bet. So basically, it's set in a world where there was kind of an apocalyptic uh, time caused by magic, and so they pretty much eradicated all sorcerers, and so it's set hundreds of years after that, and um, basically Tori, the main character. There's five point of views, but she's the ultimate main character, and she shows power, defies her ruler in a pretty dramatic way in the opening chapters, and becomes kind of a catalyst for a revolution, bringing magic back and a resistance towards this empire. And so it's a lot of ways a revolution book, a little bit of Magic Academy thrown in there in the first book mostly. It kind of meshes a lot of things that I really like. There's some military fantasy thrown mixed in there. One of the main point of views is a soldier, and yeah, so it's what I would say is a true epic. Gets very big in scope as the series goes on, and kind of goes crazy by the end.
I'm a huge fan of that. I've always you can go back in my history of interviews, and I say this all the time. If you can pull off multiple points of view, five, man, that's amazing. That's a lot of coordination. Are you an outliner?
Am I a what? Sorry.
I'm sorry, like somebody who outlines.
Oh, an outliner. Not really.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
impressive, brother.
I know. Yeah, I have a I keep most of it in my head, and I'll sometimes jot down some kind of basic. Here's major plot points that I'm heading towards, but I tend to follow what I've kind of heard called the headlights, kind of the headlights method, where basically you can see a little ways out in front of you, but you know your destination. You know where you're heading, exactly how you're going to get there, and what twists and turns are going to come along the way. I kind of weave that together as I go, and with multiple point of views, a lot of times I'd have, okay, here's where these characters are starting. I know they're going to go through these major things. And as I'm writing the book, I'm figuring out here's how that's going to weave together. And so it's one of those, I don't think it works for everybody. Some people really have to know. And for me, a lot of the fun is discovering how things are going to come together.
I love hearing that because as somebody who aspires to write a full length novel, you always want to hear those little bits of gold. I love that. So I like that. I've never heard headlight method, and that makes sense. You have an idea of where you're going, and you kind of just go with it, see where the writing takes you, and you end up in the spot that you had kind of predetermined.
Yeah.
That's super cool, man. So tell us about when did your Kickstarter campaign, which is like the main topic here, guys. Look how I think I've got it here. I did bring it up. I want to show you how beautiful this is, guys. Here it is. It's going to cover our face a little bit. That's okay. Look how gorgeous that is. Would you tell us a little bit more about your Kickstarter campaign, like when it
Sure.
started?
Yeah, so it's been going a little over 2 weeks now. It's got 5 days left, almost exactly. And yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's really for a deluxe edition. I've never done a hardcover edition for this series. And over the years, I had people asking if I'd ever do it in hardcover. And I always wanted to do something more special than just take the same book and make a hardcover. I always wanted more illustrations and some color stuff. And then I
That is
yeah, then I started seeing some people doing some really cool things with Kickstarter
oh
and
such
producing
incredible.
books. Yeah, it's crazy. You can see my sword of Kaigen back there. That
Yes, I'm so jealous, by the way.
yeah,
That is one that I wish I would have gotten in on.
yeah, it's gorgeous. And so that one especially, I was like, I wonder if I could do something like this. And um
Went with it.
Yeah, and then I decided to go for it.
So
There you
look,
go.
sort of Kaigen is a beautiful cover first off, but
Yeah.
then this Kickstarter edition comes on, and look, if you're anything like, yeah, show it up. I've
Yeah,
never seen the sprayed edges like the silver. Oh,
yeah,
that's gorgeous.
it's so cool, and it's got
Oh,
color art there, color map, bunch of illustrations inside. It's a sweet book.
so what comes with your deluxe edition? Would you tell us a little about who was your artist? From
Yeah,
what I
absolutely.
understand, there's some art in there.
Yeah, yeah. Quite a bit of art. We're getting ready to unlock a fifth interior illustration. So we've got there all the artwork's going to be printed in color in the book, and then they'll be inserted with tip ins. And uh, thank you.
Book Mama 87 says your Kickstarter is doing so well. We'll go into that right after you're done saying what you're saying.
Yeah. But yeah, so there's going to be a bunch of interior artwork. Um, I've got three different artists who've been contributing. Omer Barakonal is one. He's done a lot of a lot of fantasy art for indie authors recently, and he's done most of my last four book covers as well. So I've been working with him for quite a long time. And Andrew Molesky, who's also
I've
been,
heard his name.
yeah, he's been producing some really killer art for a lot of these special editions recently, and so he's doing several for me. Um, and then we're about to unlock, but I've actually already sent him the sent
I
him
love
the
it.
instructions for this. But we're adding on Suthiwat Deshikampu, who also did the Dragon Mage cover.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
ML Spencer's cover is
yeah.
just beautiful.
Yeah, so he's awesome. He's going to be depicting Tori, our main character, and the villain, the Chancellor. So I'm really excited for that because the Chancellor's kind of a fan favorite. He's kind of the bad guy that you're like not really rooting for, but you like to watch what he does because he's pretty interesting.
Kind of
And
is he a morally gray kind of character in your book?
yeah, yeah, he's not just like your standard villain. He's somebody who has a pretty complex past. He's pretty convinced that, or at least presents as though he's convinced that what he's doing is for the greater good in some way. Um, and that's something I explore quite a bit in throughout the whole series. Is really kind of that each character has their reasons for what they're doing. It's not just I'm the bad guy or whatever, but um that everybody's got their reasons for why they're making their decisions, and those are at odds with other people's decision making. And yeah.
That's something that I often talk about on my channel. It's like there's things happening in a book, and I often describe darker things and
Mhm.
insert like if something dark happens, be it violence or whatever else, if there's not really a reason for it, what you're saying is the exact opposite, by the way. If
Yeah.
there's not a reason for it, it's kind of hard to keep going for me. For me,
Mhm.
um, so I
Yeah.
love that what you're saying is these people are making decisions, often not favorable decisions, but there's a reason for it, and then you get to
Mhm.
also kind of feel that throughout the characters, the five point of view. I love that.
Yeah.
Um, Tim McKay, he said headlight pantsing. I'm going to call it that going forward. I think he
That's a
has a.
great that's a great
That's a
way of thinking
wonderful way
about
to put it.
it. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it is like kind of somewhere in the middle, probably a little bit more pantsing than outlining, but somewhere in the middle. So
So I'm gonna shoot the numbers out there because they're very impressive. So far, the campaign right here, I checked up on it. 16,850 with 204 backers. I did some
yeah.
math. That's roughly $82 per backer. That's got to feel cool. How does that feel, man?
Yeah, it's crazy, man. These things are a roller coaster. It's already surpassed anything I thought was going to happen when I decided to do it. And yeah, it's been an awesome experience. It's really cool to see so many people excited about it. And
Yeah.
yeah, getting to unlock some extra things and things like that. So yeah, it's awesome. I'm having a blast with it.
I hope one day that I can feel just what you're feeling, because that just, a lot of us who aspire to write can only just kind of dream of that until it happens. So you're doing something really cool. It's you're changing people's reading experience. These editions that come out are just so much better of a experience. At least for me personally, it's
Yeah.
so much more in depth, and I'm sure as an author,
Mhm.
you reaching out to these wonderful illustrators and saying, "Hey, I've got a Kickstarter." I mean, that must feel so cool.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. All the artists have been really cool. I don't think I mentioned Rachel St. Clair, who did the cover art. She's also doing some chapter headers and point of view icons and things like that. But she's really awesome as well. And so yeah, I've gotten to work with some really talented people. It's been really cool to see. Like basically up until this point, the only artwork that's been done for this series has um all been around Tori, the main character, and so it's been really cool to see other characters depicted for the first time and see some different landscapes and stuff being explored. And I'm really pumped to see what's going to come in the next books as well, because uh,
Yeah.
yeah, there's some pretty cool things that I'm excited to see illustrated later on.
That sounds amazing. I'm excited for you, and I'm excited to know about it and to be I'm interested now. It's like I now have to add to my endless TBR and bump this up because it sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Caden says, just stopping by to say that you all need the Shadow Watch in your life.
Caden's awesome.
He is.
I actually got to meet him in person a few days ago.
Oh, really? Where at?
He lives right up the road. So we did a little local book signing, kind of a Kickstarter party, and just at like a local coffee shop, and invite a bunch of people, and
That's so
he just stopped
fun.
by, and so that was really cool to meet him because I'd interacted with him a bit on social media over the last month or two, and so that was really
Yeah,
cool.
he's doing it right, man. Everybody that I speak with knows Caden, and with the book coming out, man, he's just doing it the right way. I'm so happy for him, and I can't wait to read this book too. It's very fresh
Yeah,
idea with it.
it sounds very interesting from what I've looked up a little bit about it.
Yeah. So thanks, Caden always pops in. I'm very thankful for that young man. But I wanted to say real quick too. Right before this started, Zach Argyle said he was getting on a plane. He was going to miss it. He's like, I love these guys. Sad I'll miss it. So just a little backstory, real quick. I interviewed Zach, and he's the reason that me and Mr. Klopfenstein are talking, because he's like, look, he's got a Kickstarter going out. I'm good buddies with this guy. He's a great guy. Of course, I was like, of course, I just got a recommendation. We're here talking, and I'm so thankful for it. So, Zach, if you watch this, thank you, brother.
Yeah, Zach's a really good friend of mine. We've actually been in a writers group together for about over 3 years now.
Oh,
And so,
wow.
yeah, pretty much like COVID hit, Zach launched his book, and then me and a few other people, we all started meeting online at the beginning of the pandemic and we were all kind of trying to level up our writing, level up our indie indie art author game, really
Yeah,
just trying to
no.
figure things
What
out.
a wonderful group to do that. You guys,
Awesome.
obviously players in the game, bigger players in the game, and I think that you have a lot to. As humans, we always have more to learn, but you also can teach. You're doing a
Mhm.
thing that people want to do, and a lot of the time, when I started this little writing that I'm doing right now, it's like I know what I'm bad at, and I know what to ask. At least I think I do.
Yeah,
But I think you have to be a little more open, like to have a little insight and self awareness,
yeah.
which is where somebody like you and Zach and a writing group can really shine, and those who are coming into it can learn.
Yeah, it's awesome. I would recommend anybody if you're trying to write and trying to figure this thing out, connecting with other writers it's been game changing for me really since I started writing. Um, I first started writing at a creative writing class in college, and it was basically set up as a writer's workshop where you'd you'd bring something, you had to share it with everybody, everybody read it and offer feedback. And so we did that for everybody. It was like it was a small class, probably like 15 people or something like that.
Isn't that the best though?
And that's what got me hooked, man. I turned some stuff in, got some good feedback, and was like, this is really fun. And maybe I'm not half bad at it. So I'll
Yeah.
keep going. And then it's been the same thing with this group now, kind of a little more professionally, just getting feedback on things, learning how everybody's approaching things like marketing and stuff like that. I can definitely say that if Zach hadn't done his Kickstarter, that was definitely that gave me a big push. I've been like entertaining the idea, but seeing how he did it, and that inspired me and kind of gave me the nudge to I'm going to go for this too. I've always wanted to do something like this, and so
That's awesome that you had somebody that was kind of pushing you along, and then also give you this inspiration, something that he was doing that sparked something in your heart to do the same. That's really cool to hear, man.
yeah, totally.
Excuse me. Um, yeah, Montague, my Discord moderator, the reason that I'm on time for things. What is your favorite experience about getting your stories out there? What a good question.
Oh, that's a great question. Man, ultimate favorite would be really hard to pin down, but probably just holding the first book in my hands, and maybe this will surpass it when I hold this book. But every time that I get that first copy, that's a physical copy, that's meant a lot to me because it's just that dream happening. And definitely the first book was like I teared up, and
Oh,
and
I'm
so
sure.
it was pretty cool. I'd been dreaming of having a book to hold in my hands for a lot of years, and so
I know how it feels as a reader to hold just that book, and it's like I get this experience over and over again, no matter what book it is. Like I
mhm,
find beauty in every book that I get, and as a
yeah,
reviewer, I get quite a few, and I'm very thankful to be able to read and get to know a lot of authors through their books. Every single one that I get, or if I go to Walmart and buy one, there's a traditional. It's
mhm,
like everything about a book I love. So imagining that being my own baby, one
yeah,
that started in your head that you've put so much work in that when you started, you had no clue what it was going to look like, what it was going to be about, and then all of a sudden you're
mhm,
just like, here it is,
yeah.
that shiny new story that's been edited that I've put my heart into and my time. I can only imagine. That's so cool. I'm so happy for you, man. And even more so doing this Kickstarter. That's going to be so cool to hold that.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to see what some of this stuff looks like as a physical copy for sure.
So the outer cover, is that like an inlay?
Is it a what? Sorry.
Like an inlay, like I don't know what it's
Yeah,
called, but like
it'll be foil stamped.
that's it. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so it'll be silver foil on a black faux leather cover,
Oh,
and stamped on there. Yeah, they'll actually like make something to press with it. And so
that's so
uh,
cool.
yeah.
I was gonna say Charlie Cavendish, who's another regular who watches my stuff. I
Yeah,
love
I
that guy.
recognize that.
Yeah, he such a good reviewer. Anything he puts out that I read, it's always so great. But he's here. He says 2023 seems to be the year of the Kickstarter. I agree. Not
Mhm.
only because this is the first year that I've actually funded one. The very
Yeah.
first one that I funded was Rob Hayes. Rob J. Hayes has got
Oh,
Eater.
that's awesome.
Yeah,
You're a Kickstarter noob, man.
yeah, exactly. And it's like I understand
Yeah.
the rave. It's
Oh,
a very
yeah.
cool thing that you guys are doing, man.
Yeah.
Um,
Has
So
a good
Free Wolf,
impact.
yeah, I totally agree. So Free Wolf says that's why I'm here to learn from people who know what they are doing. Yes, I'm after knowledge, and I think that's what he was commenting on is when I said that. To learn is something we should never. For me, I never want to lose that edge where learning becomes boring, and I don't think it ever will because the more I know, I can relate with my experience and the knowledge that I already have and pass down to my kids and talk to my wife about. And it's
Yeah.
just fun.
Oh, yeah. I love that. That's I feel the same way. I'm always trying to learn stuff. I think that's the way to go to really
Yeah,
about anything. If you can have an attitude of what more can I learn about something? I think that's
100%.
pretty right.
Um, E.L. Montague, maybe I hope I'm in context here. Was it about the BYU Writers Workshop?
No, I wish. No, I've just watched Sanderson's lectures online, but no, I
Yes.
actually went to school in South Dakota and moved out here about 5 years ago, and so I was past college by that by the time I coulda checked that out, but
I don't know what that is, Montague. I'll have to check that out. Is it like a prestigious writers workshop that he's speaking of?
yeah, Brandon Sanderson,
Oh yes,
he
Brigham
teaches
Young.
creative writing at Brigham Young University, and he posts the lectures for free online on YouTube. And yeah, I've watched a couple different iterations of those lectures now, and
So
yeah,
before I
they're
started
amazing. If
yeah,
I anybody wants to write fantasy, I'd point them towards that for
that's the
sure.
first thing I did before starting my YouTube channel because I had no idea that I was going to start it. First of all, I thought that I'd just go into writing because that's what I'm
Yeah,
passionate about doing. But this is the route that I took because, well, first to gain the knowledge for the tools
yeah.
that I don't have to become equipped.
Hmm.
And the first thing I did was watch all of his BYU lectures, and wow, does he really hit
He's a good
every
teacher.
he is. And
Yeah,
he's not there to make buddies or friends with the students. Not that he, not in a bad way. He's there
yeah,
to teach, and you can see that through the way that he talks and interacts with people. He even does like this little special writing group, like 10 or you have to like apply
yeah,
to be in it.
yeah,
So he takes his time with people and really wants to teach them. Uh, like you said, I'll second that. It's a wonderful. I have a whole book full of notes, just watching his videos that are free, guys. That's valuable knowledge.
yeah.
Uh,
Beat that.
he also says when you're talking about grabbing your first copy, the first copy high. I can't wait. That's going to be so cool.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a good way of putting it.
so tell us about the different tiers that you offer in
Yeah.
your Kickstarter.
So essentially, there's kind of a base level. So I've thrown audiobooks in with all of mine that everybody's not able to do that, but I recently took my audiobooks wide so that I can do whatever I want. And so actually, I even give away the first audiobook for people who join my mailing list. And
Wow.
so I'm throwing the first audiobook to everybody. Um, in whatever tier, but you wouldn't have to back it either. You could just join my mailing list, grab it, and then unsubscribe if you wanted to. But
Don't do that. Keep subscribed.
but yeah, so we've got bookmarks, couple character bookmarks that are signed that'll be signed, and then the first audiobook. And then the real thing is the special edition, and so the next tier is the special edition. Plus the audiobook. All the backers' names will be listed in the acknowledgments and some cool things like that. And then all those features that we kind of already talked about. And then the next tier is basically there. Gonna put together a paperback version of the special edition that won't have all the fancy trimmings and stuff. It'll have black and white versions of the artwork and stuff like that. But I wanted to make that available as well. And so somebody who wanted to back that first tier could also add on a paperback if they wanted, and things like that. So
I love that. No, you get a nice variety of different options, and I think that's super key in succeeding with a campaign in Kickstarter because
yeah.
everybody wants something different, and
Mhm.
there's a crowd for everything that you're going to offer.
Yeah,
I kind of just
I think it's a balance because there's also kind of yeah, there's some of that artwork that'll be full color, one of the end sheets, kind of like that sort of Kaigen I was showing, where it's like printed right on the back side of the cover. Yep.
sorry to cover our face, but this is way better than my face.
Yeah, this is better to look at. Yeah.
What I love the one on the left. I can't
Yes.
wait to have the context. Look at just how broad. I love a snowy um, vision in my head. That just makes me feel comfortable. I don't know. I
Yeah,
grew up between
it's
here
a
and
pretty
Michigan.
it's a pretty cold cold setting, especially in the first book. Really the second one too. The main nation in the story is a very northern nation, and so lots of snow. The the kind of magic academy that Tori goes to in the first book is hidden way up in these mountains called the Crooked Teeth, and
Oh man, that sounds amazing. I'm serious. That sounds so cool. Like you're just kind of up your way up the mountain and you find the snowy castle kind of deal. Or
yeah,
that sounds so cool, man. The artwork's beautiful.
yeah.
Spectacular, really.
The artists absolutely have killed it with this, and certainly a large reason that it's done as well as it has is just because they've absolutely knocked it out of the park and made it a really appealing thing for people. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
it's a
like
good
what
pick.
Yo Monty says. Like, if you have 51 guys in a writing group, you've given me 50 reasons to be any good. I like that.
Yep.
Um, so tell us what inspired you to write the book in the first place. Let's go back before the Kickstarter, when you
Sure.
wrote The Shadow Watch, and what inspired you to do so?
Yeah. So I wrote a full book before I wrote the Shadow Watch. That was my first book, and I like to say it was like the book that taught me how to write.
The Stepping Stone.
I made all my major mistakes with that one, and it took me several years to write. I started it in that creative writing class, wrote like 50 pages, totally restarted. It didn't know what it was gonna be. I was literally just like, here's a couple characters, I have some ideas. I've got these um kind of beings that end up being somewhat similar to the Watchers in the Shadow Watch, who um kind of blends various abilities of magic, but then they can also fly. So there's a little bit of a it's not trying to like mythology, but it was a little bit inspired by like um angels who can fly but without they don't have wings or anything, and so it's
Sorry for that face. I accidentally started a video behind our audio. I didn't mean to make that face. It kind of just
you're
freaked me
good.
out. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You're good. You're like, ugh.
Yeah, it's like so sometimes I keep like on accident, I keep my video that's live on YouTube, which is a little behind what we're doing right now. And
Yeah.
I accidentally push play and it's like, oh, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, no, it's all good, man. Um,
So continue with the inspiration behind your novel.
yeah, so I wrote this whole other book and um got basically I edited it, I queried it, and got to the point where I wasn't quite happy. I wasn't happy enough to, by that time, I was entertaining the idea of indie publishing, and I didn't feel good enough about it to put it out there. And I realized I was really hoping somebody would pick it up and then help me fix it because I knew it needed work. And so finally just decided. It took a while because I was like, I put so much work into this. I really hate to give it up, but I eventually just had to be like, I think this one needs to be put in a drawer, and uh, we'll we'll figure something out. We'll learn from it, and so uh,
I love that.
yeah,
So you realized something, and you noticed that it meant a lot to you to come back to. I love that. It must have been one of those. I picture myself looking at or watching this interview I seen with Stephen King. It's like, what ideas? How do you get your ideas? He's like, look, the ideas that I use are the ones that stick with me over time, and I keep
Mhm.
thinking about. Is that similar to your experience?
Yeah, oh, definitely. And that still continues to be true because I've had so many ideas over the years, and then um, like I spent 5 years writing the Shadow Watch saga, and that whole time I was coming up with a bunch of new ideas, but I knew I didn't have the time to do anything with them, and so I'd take a few notes and things, and there's several things that I've had ideas for that didn't stick, and then so other things that have. And so, and there's other things that I'm still like
Brewing, things that are
on
still
board
brewing.
and waiting to have time to write, because now I'm getting to the point where it's just I can churn out about basically a book a year, usually a little bit faster than that.
Which is
And
pretty quick, guys. How many words would you say your average book is?
um usually over, so all the Shadow Watch books are well over 100,000. The shortest one is the first one, which is like 113, I think, and the second one was the longest book I've ever written, which was a little over 140. And I swore I'd never write one that long again after I did that, because it was such a pain to edit. But it's
Ooh.
also probably my favorite of the Shadow Watch books. So, and maybe now that I've done a lot more writing, I wouldn't be opposed to another big one like that. But
So yeah, like 120,000 words, guys, is a nice size novel, and to do that in a year, you hear Brandon Sanderson talk about in those lectures.
Mhm.
It's like, look, if you can do a book every 2 years, I don't remember exactly what he said, but he
Yeah,
has this method. But yeah, that was a book every 2 years. That's probably average. Just from hearing his lecture, that's the only bit of knowledge that I have on that. So
yeah,
a book a year is being very ambitious.
yeah.
John, go ahead, sir.
Oh, no, I was gonna say that's just been a kind of a pace I've aimed for, that I wanted to at least release one a year. But I think the closest I've released was like 7 months apart, and that was really pushing. And that was in my second series, which those books were slightly shorter, and so
Now
it made
that's
it more.
writing and editing, send it out to be editing, and then
Yeah,
proofread, and then cover
yeah,
art, all that stuff. That's very quick.
yeah,
John A. Douglas is another person who has been with my channel since the very beginning. I appreciate you, brother. Uh, Definitely understand the family issues and the work crisis, man. Just thank you for showing up.
yeah,
Um,
definitely. Thanks for coming by, man.
Yamatki says books are like children. You hope they are ready for the world, but you don't know until you set them free. Wow, what a statement.
Yeah,
Poetic. He
that's
sounds like an
pretty
author
accurate.
himself, huh?
Yeah, must be. Yeah,
He is actually. Yeah, I was. That's my little poke at
I
him.
assume so.
Yeah. So most writers are slower than a book every other. Yeah, yeah. Some are much faster, but most are not. Yeah, that just hits home that what I was saying. And Timothy Wolf, of course, another wonderful indie author. Have to book every 1 month in advance. Okay. So I think what he's saying is if you want your cover art done by December, make sure you're booking that now.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to be planning quite a ways ahead. Like, I usually have to have an idea of when I'm going to be done with my book to get to my editor, because I usually communicate with her like 6 months in advance. Hey, I'm aiming for here, and then that gives me a deadline of, okay, um, I think I can do that. Now I got to make it happen, and it's
Now,
not just finished in the first draft by then. I've got to finish the first draft and then work through my own edits and before I
now,
send
do
it.
you edit your own work or do you send it out?
Yeah, both. Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, just I go through my own drafts, multiple drafts before I send it off. So,
What would you say is the lengthiest process? Editing? Is it cover art?
um,
Is it proofreading?
well, certainly the longest for me is getting the first draft down. That usually takes me about 6 months,
Mm.
and the time between finishing and publishing has been always at least 3 months for me. Actually, my I've got a book coming out here in a week or so, and
Mm.
that one, because I decided let's do a Kickstarter and a book launch at the same
I
time.
saw that. That's pretty
Yeah,
ambitious, man.
yeah. It was more it wasn't planned. I was hoping to originally release this book a little bit earlier, and I had to push it back. Just the first half of the year kind of kicked my butt, and so I didn't get nearly as much writing as I was hoping to, and I had to rock it out over the summer. But that kind of ended up converging both these things. And then the Kickstarter, it's kind of I've been told best practice to get it in before the holiday season because people stop
Yeah,
backing as much, and so I
that
was
makes
really
sense.
trying to get mine in October, and so I timed it out to where I was like, I couldn't do the Kickstarter any sooner, or I would have done that, but I needed artwork and um, needed some of that to be finished up, and so it was kind of as close as I could bring it to not have
So
those completely overlap.
sure, no, no, no. I think you did great. It's a really cool idea. I mean, doing the both not at the exact same time, but one after another kind of deal. I
Yeah,
think that's a good lineup. You've got the attention on the Kickstarter, but hey, also I've got this. So I think that was a good choice.
yeah.
Timothy says, "I thought you could book a cover artist, and then they start next week."
Yeah.
Uh,
You never know. I have had artwork get going much faster than I expected, sometimes within a couple of weeks, but usually um, I never plan for that. Let's just say that.
sure,
I'm
yeah, I think that's smart.
planning for months, and then if it happens to get done a lot faster, then I'm thrilled. But
I love that. That's really good information, and that's another piece of the puzzle that people are after. I was after that. I still am after getting more and more ideas about your thoughts or an author's thoughts on the whole process. So that's very informational. B.A. Turner, another indie author, actually a guy that I found through John's YouTube. So
okay, cool.
pretty cool guy, yeah. John also says booking way ahead. Okay, he's dropping his book. I believe it comes out Monday. I hope I'm right. Um, so
Oh,
yeah,
that's coming up real soon.
yeah. So he is saying, I wish I would have booked a little further ahead of time because I'm finding out that is something that can hold up my launch day. That's good information.
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
The more you can, I mean, you're always just bound by what you can pull off because part of the tough thing is that it's very hard to like you don't know what's going to happen with the book. Like I know I'm aiming for a certain length. This book that I'm getting ready to publish, I was aiming for a first draft at 100,000 words. It ended up being more like 110, I think. And I'm not a super fast writer, so that meant 2 or 3 weeks more of time to finish writing, and that means 2 or 3 weeks less of editing that I was going to have, and
just
or
really on that scheduled
yeah,
timeline.
and so it really makes it to where it's like, okay, now I've really got to. It all works out. There's just times where I have to do more in a day than I would have in other seasons.
Sure.
Probably that always ends up being the case in editing for me. That
That
um,
makes a lot of sense because, and like most things in our life, we have a plan, right? But do we ever really have a plan that just is like error proof? It never happens that way.
yeah,
So it's just no different with this, but a little exaggerated when it comes to certain processes.
yep.
That's at least what I've heard. So that's awesome. And so that's great information. We kind of covered my next question. I said, what was the age range for your novels or the Shadow Watch series?
Yeah. I I say that anybody high school or over
Okay.
can
So
enjoy
like
it. They're
14 on.
yeah, yeah.
That's great.
They're written to really be enjoyed by both. That the content level it's pretty violent, but other content is fairly low key.
I love that because I love the fact that you can pick it up as a young adult and also to enjoy like I said, the Wheel of Time is one of those, and I just
Mhm.
uh, there's a bunch. I usually have a couple more in mind that are the same kind of range. I can't really think of any else right now, but
Yeah, Red Rising's another one that comes to mind. It's not fantasy, but the
yeah,
first Red Rising I feel is fairly similar to mine in that not actual story wise, but
sure.
just kind of content wise, where it's like at the beginning it was like you'd find it in the YA section when that first came out,
And
and
not the last book though.
yeah, and then as
Yeah.
it firmly established itself in adult now, but yeah, I mean he's 16 in the first book, and so um,
Natural event, natural time progression, and within his life. Yes, that's
and
beautiful. I
I
love that.
love that, yeah, and mine kinda go that way too, and I'm planning actually a follow-up series where there will be characters that are much older than at that point. And so it starts there, but moves on. The characters age. Even in the first book, like a couple of the characters are the main character is 18, another one's 19, and then another one is like mid 20s. And so
I love it.
really that
Uh,
describes mine.
yeah, no, that makes 100%. I think that's probably one of the most attractive qualities about a story to me. When did you personally discover your love for literature? I love these answers. I love
Mm,
asking this question.
yeah. Um Yeah, and that's hard to pin down. But I would guess it really started with my parents reading to me. I especially remember my dad reading books aloud to my brother and me when we were little, like elementary school age, and that sort of thing. And so I'm sure that that's where it started.
Sure.
And um,
I hope that that's kind of like the same way my kids can answer.
yeah,
I
definitely. Yeah.
I want to
That
read.
tends to be that way.
So I also want to say I often tell my guest sometimes there's a lag. So if I accidentally interrupt you, I promise you it's not on purpose. There's like a lag sometimes when people speak. So
Yeah,
just so you know.
no
Um,
worries.
good deal. So I love that. I want to read. I talk about it a lot. I want to read The Hobbit to my children when they're
Yeah.
of age. Until then, it's kind of the kiddie books. We get a couple in the mail every month from it's something
Mhm.
Dolly Parton does. I'm sure you've heard of it. And she does like this. It's free. So if you have
Mhm.
a child, they get this book, and it's cool. But I can't wait to read something where they're like, "Oh, that left an impression on me." I'm hoping it does
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're just like, I hope you actually like it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I've
I
really got
hope.
my heart set on reading Harry Potter to you. So
Yeah. So, who are a couple of your favorite authors? Maybe a couple who have their hand in the way that you write.
sure. So so it's always hard to pinpoint because you kind of go through a trajectory, I certainly within the realms of fantasy. When I was younger, like I think 14 when the Fellowship of the Ring movie came out, and so I was like hooked on Tolkien by that, and
Oh
and
yeah,
I'd read The Hobbit prior to that, and like that, and so it's certainly Tolkien and like the Narnia books were an entry point for me, and then as a kid, and then Harry Potter as well, and then in adulthood, um, George R. R. Martin for sure. I definitely admire his writing a lot, and especially like handling lots of point of views and handling characters who are really complex.
you said George R. R. Martin, right?
Yeah,
Sorry, just making sure.
no, you're good. Yeah, so George R. R. Martin really got me hooked on epic fantasy, and I really tried to make sure I was reading the books before the show seasons were airing and stuff. And I got hooked on the big books, and so then Sanderson's another one that I really admire a lot, really learn a lot, and love.
Now, what's your favorite thing about Brandon?
Oh man,
Is it his world building? Is it his characters? Is it the way that he does his magic systems?
yeah, the magic systems are cool, but they don't. There, I was never like, oh my gosh, for that
Yeah,
for whatever reason. Some people magic systems the thing,
yeah.
and I totally get that. I think characters and world building for me would be the biggest from him. The Stormlight books, when I read the Way of Kings, entering that world the first time, I was like, this is so different from any epic fantasy world I've read about, and that blew me away. That was really inspirational. Just thinking, hey, it doesn't have to be your typical medieval
Sure.
setting, I guess.
That's the last book, my most recent purchased traditional book. is The Way of Kings.
Yeah.
I hope, because I've read Elantris and it was okay.
Yeah,
If
I
I
didn't read that one. I heard mixed things, so
Yeah,
I
I
started with
couldn't
that one.
I couldn't base my opinion just based on what I know about people and what they love about Brandon, and then reading that they don't coincide yet. So I'm
Mhm.
looking forward to The Way of Kings,
Yeah,
and it sounds like
it's
that was a
awesome.
big one. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited for that. And what a what was the Michael? Is it Michael Whalen?
Yeah,
Did his
the
company?
artist.
Yeah, the artist. He's so
Yeah.
good, and he's been doing it for such a long time.
Yeah.
Uh, so
Yeah,
cool to see
the
his stuff.
artwork for those books is so cool. That's another thing that really inspired some of the ideas with the special edition too, even was like I'm one of our stretch goals is some bestiary sketches for the appendices. And I was like, well, he has a ton of those in there. Could I actually do something like that? And that
Those
was
are
like,
some of my favorite things ever.
I love those things. Yeah.
Um, my one of my favorite authors, really the guy that got me into reading when I was 29. I'm 33, so I haven't been doing this a long time. Which
Mhm.
there's pros and cons. I have a lot to read, but there's also that I have a lot to catch up on. Um,
Yeah, totally.
but James Rollins, he
Yeah.
does the Sigma Force novels, but he did the Moonfall saga. It's a duology, and
Okay.
it's so good. And one of the things that really hooked me was his epigraphs are usually explaining the anatomy of these made up fictional beasts. And
Yeah.
he's a veterinarian. That's what he did in New York for a very long time. So he has
That's cool.
very real experience. And when you have that experience, you can put a lot of good information into a fictitious beast, and they're really fun. So you saying that it brings back good memories and something that I truly love in books. Monty has a great question. What about marketing? How soon do you get started with advertising and shouting it from the proverbial rooftops?
Yeah. Is that I think that popped up while we were kind of talking book launch and
Yeah.
all those things. Um, yeah. Certainly like for advertising, I do very little until the book's actually out. Um, and then even then I put a lot more into the first book in a series than I do into the later ones. Um, but as far as like social media and stuff like that, I would like to be better, and I'm trying to get better. One of the tough things, and I'm sure lots of people who are writing and juggling day jobs and things like that can relate.
Yeah.
You do the best you can, and um, you try to do as much as possible. I'm always pretty bad about like tapering off on social media while I'm really trying to write. And then as
Okay. Yeah.
building up to a launch, I start being more active again. And I would like to be more consistent because, um,
You hit home a very good point by bringing up your personal experience with marketing. Because listen, there's many writers who aren't marketers.
yeah,
Not saying that you're that person. I'm not. But there's lots of people that I hear from saying I love writing, and I don't like the fact that there's certain jobs within the being an indie published author
mhm,
that you may not have. And there's a publisher behind you doing all these little jobs and kind of go unseen for the traditional published authors. Marketing being a huge one, I think. At least from what I've heard.
yeah.
Would you
I'm
say
losing
this?
your audio too. I'm not sure what's going on. It's like going real staticky for me. It sounds like other people are catching that too.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. Does it sound better? Does that sound
Yeah.
better? Okay, good. Good.
So I didn't hear anything that you said, about marketing But
So would you
people
say
not
that that
going
was
into
a job that you start? Okay, so you start writing and you're getting ready to put this book out. Was marketing a harder part of the unforeseen jobs that you had as a indie author?
100%. Yeah, it was. I wrote the book, and I expect probably most people do this. Like you go into it because you love writing, and then you are like, well, me whether I go indie or go traditional, I'm hoping somebody else is.
That's actually a
You're not
lot about
picturing
what I
yourself
said.
being the one really having to do all those things. I think certainly I wasn't, and once I started trying to figure out how to go indie, then I started to realize, okay, I definitely will have to learn how. But honestly, even in trad, from what I understand and people that I've talked to, you still have to do a lot yourself anyway. So
That's what I
it's
heard.
really,
I've
as
heard
an
that as
author
well.
these days, I think it's very hard to if you want people to read your stuff, it's very hard to. You're the best advocate for it. You know it the best, and you care about it the most. Even a publisher isn't going to care about it as much as you. So,
Sure.
um,
So yeah,
but yeah,
that's part of what you missed when I was sorry about that audio, guys. I was reiterating the fact that a lot of authors tell me I wasn't ready for the marketing part.
yeah, it's a
So
huge
yeah,
learning curve, man.
yeah, it sounds like it, and I think that it's really good information to share that from your personal experience. So thank you.
Yeah.
What are you currently reading right now?
Oh, that's a great question. I just finished "Of Blood and Fire" by Ryan Cale,
Oh, so
and
good.
yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I like The Fall even better, so I'm excited to continue
Yes.
that series. The Fall was awesome. I don't know if I'll be able to get that special edition they're doing because you got to be. Broken Binding does like their members first
Yes.
delivery, but I'm like
100%.
salivating over
I
that
tell people
artwork that season, you know.
I've been bugging Broken Binding for some time now to like, come on, I want on this. I think the last time they told me, and I'm sure I've bumped up by now because it's a couple months ago, but like
Yeah.
number 7,000 on their subscription waiting list. How incredible is that?
Yeah, that's nuts. I mean, they're doing awesome things.
They are.
I've been watching them for the last since they started doing this stuff, and it's been cool to. I think they're doing awesome things for the indie community and authors in general.
Yeah. So before Broken Binding, I can't remember. Of course, like I said, I'm kind of new at this, but I've never seen a special edition of an indie book. So it's super cool
Yeah,
what they're doing.
yeah. The fact that they're putting together the quality of books that they are for indie authors is really awesome.
It is. So
But yeah,
this
so I just finished that, and then I'm reading The Last Ranger right now by JDL Russell.
Yes. Well, let's plug you. We got it now. I'm so excited to read it. Look
Yeah.
at the cover, guys. Just
Oh
so,
yeah.
and I, from what I understand, he's just a wonderful writer.
Yeah.
I can't wait to
His
review it.
prose is very nice. I'm really enjoying it a lot. I'm like, oh, I'm actually splitting between. I do this a lot. I listen to the audio and read the physical and like alternate back and forth. And the narrator's really nice, and the book itself is really nice. And I have the physical copy. I actually backed his Kickstarter back when he launched that first one, and so it's got awesome artwork. He was another one that I was watching doing some cool things with Kickstarter, and was like, I like what you're doing, man. I'm
Yeah.
intrigued.
That's so nice to find those people in the same community they're just doing things right before you do them. You know, you
Yeah,
find this inspiration, and I think that's really special.
yeah,
You find
yeah. You
so,
you you see what's possible. I think like some people kind of paved the way, and I think that's why 2023 has been the year of Kickstarter. Is a few people really tested it out and had some cool success, and really opened the floodgates a little bit now to where it's like, hey, you as an indie, you have access to some pretty cool possibilities
yeah,
potentially if you do it right. And
to see
so
what's possible, like you said. I think that's
yeah,
a great point. It's like, okay, I see what's possible, and here I come. I love it. Um, So I like asking. This is kind of a new question that I ask everybody. Who is someone you'd like to see me interview in the future? Who's somebody that you'd like to see chat about their books?
Have you talked to JDL Russell yet?
No, I
You should
haven't.
talk to him. He's a
Okay,
good guy.
what a good answer. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's on my schedule. I'm 99% sure he is.
yeah,
If not, I need to like get after it ASAP because I'm gonna be reviewing his book. So I'm really sure he's in the next couple months. But if
cool.
not, yes, 100% I agree with you.
Yeah.
So what's next for you?
So I'm finishing out this Kickstarter in the next few days, and then launching this book next Friday, and then after that, I'll probably play around a little bit. I know my next book is going to be set. It's uh, set in the same universe as the Shadow Watch books, and
Oh, I love when authors do that.
I'm really excited for it. Um, it's going to have dragons, which I've always wanted to do. It's called Children of the Gods right now, and I'm pretty excited to get going with that. It's going to be more military fantasy,
I
and
love military. It's
yeah,
just the most fun.
yeah, yeah. I've always loved battles, and I've found them recently more fun to write. It's for a long time it was very very I don't know. I had a love-hate relationship with battle scenes for a long time because I wanted huge scale battles, but
Uh,
they were real. Like my first battle was really hard to write because I just never done it before, and
yeah,
you're thinking about all these different things that may or may not actually be shown on page, but you kind of want to have a context for what where people are moving, how forces are working, um, and then kind of immerse a character in the midst of the chaos. And it took me a it took me a while to I think I've gotten to the point where I've written enough battles that I'm starting to just really enjoy them and not feel not feel like there's so much work.
so intimidated by it. Yeah, because
Yeah.
you've like you said, you've written them now, and that's cool, man. That you're getting more comfortable with something that you really wanted to perfect. That's cool. I love that. Um, so I kind of always offer a little bit at the end. If there's anything that we've talked about or haven't talked about, you'd like to highlight any further, now's the time. If there's nothing, that's also fine. So don't feel pressure. But if there is, I'd love it.
Yeah. Man, I don't think so. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, man, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, appreciate
100%.
you highlighting Kickstarter.
Everybody go to the Kickstarter. Yeah, he's got way more information than we've like that I've put up for you to see. It's a really special thing that he's doing. So go check it out, guys. And if you like it, yeah, fund it. It looks amazing.
Yeah,
And I'd like to just thank you and for letting me borrow you for a little bit and getting some really good information. So yeah, I'm really thankful.
yeah, no problem. Thanks so much for having me on, man. It's been a lot of fun, and maybe we'll do it again sometime.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, and thank you for everybody that watched and who will watch in the future. Tomorrow, I think it's noon or 2. I'm not exactly sure, but I'll have it out. I'm talking with Anna Smith Spark. Uh, it'll be a really fun interview. She's doing some really cool stuff and she has been for a while, but I'm new to the game, so we get to learn.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's awesome. I love that you're doing all these interviews. They're a lot of fun to watch. So
Thank you, man. I really appreciate
I
that.
haven't been able to catch them live, so I've just been checking in with them after the fact. But
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for that. And really, until next time, guys, I hope you have a wonderful night, afternoon, whatever time it is where you're at, and we'll see you next time.